Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the last science show. That's right, the last science show. Black History Month is one of my favorite months. But when I think about all that black people have done, every month is my favorite month because every month is Black History Month. We've done a lot as black people. 28 days can't hold it, which is why you'll see more of these videos after February 28th. Anyway, let's honor another black scientist, Ernest Everett Just. Ernest Everett Just was an African-American biologist and educator, best known for his pioneering work in the physiology of development, especially in fertilization. Ernest Everett Just was an African-American biologist and educator who pioneered many areas on the physiology of development, including fertilization, experimental parthenogenesis, hydration, cell division, dehydration in living cells, and ultraviolet carcinogenic radiation effects on cells. Just's legacy of accomplishments followed him long after his death on October 27, 1941. Just was born on August 14, 1883 in Charleston, South Carolina, to Charles Frazier and Mary Matthews Just. Known as an intelligent and inquisitive student, Just studied at Kimball Union Academy in New Hampshire before enrolling at Dartmouth College. It was during his university years that Just discovered an interest in biology after reading a paper on fertilization and egg development. This bright young man earned the highest grades in Greek during his freshman year and was selected as a Rufus Choate Scholar for 2 years. He graduated as the sole magna cum laude student in 1907, also receiving honors in botany, sociology, and history. Just's first job out of college was as a teacher and researcher at the traditionally all-black Howard University. Later, in 1909, he worked in research at Woods Hole Marine Biological Laboratory in Massachusetts. Just furthered his education by obtaining a Doctor of Philosophy degree from the University of Chicago, where he studied experimental embryology and graduated magna cum laude. Just pioneered many areas on the physiology of development, including fertilization, experimental parthenogenesis, hydration, cell division, dehydration in living cells, and ultraviolet carcinogenic radiation effects on cells. Just also served as editor of 3 scholarly periodicals. In 1915, won the NAACP's first Spingram Medal for Outstanding Achievement by a Black American. From 1920 to 1931, he was a Julius Rosenwald Fellow in Biology of the National Research Council, a position that provided him the chance to work in Europe when racial discrimination hindered his opportunities in the United States. During this time, Just penned many research papers, including the 1924 publication General Cytology, which he co-authored with respected scientists from Princeton University, the University of Chicago, the National Academy of Sciences, and the Marine Biological Laboratory. Held in high esteem within his field, notable black scientist Charles Drew called Just a biologist of unusual skill and the greatest of our original thinkers in the field. Just married high school teacher Ethel Highwarden on June 26, 1912, and together they had 3 children, Margaret Highwarden and Maribel, before divorcing in 1939. That same year, Just married Hedwig Schnitzler, a philosophy student he had met in Berlin. In 1940, the German Nazis imprisoned Just in a camp, but with the help of his wife's father, he was released. After making their way out of France, the couple gave birth to daughter Elizabeth. Ernest Just died of pancreatic cancer in Washington, D.C. on October 27, 1941. He is buried at the Lincoln Memorial Cemetery in Suitland, Maryland. Just published more than 70 scientific articles, became the editor of the journal Physiological Zoology in 1929, was elected to the editorial board of the MBL's Biological Bulletin in 1930, and elected vice president of the American Society of Zoologists in 1930. His 1939 book, The Biology of the Cell Surface, synthesized his discoveries into a whole, making scientific concepts accessible to general readers and influencing scientists around the world. Thank you, Ernest, for influencing me and influencing us all, whether we realize it or not. These legends put in extra work and took the lead so it would be easier for us to succeed. That's all for this episode of The Last Science Show. Continue to like, subscribe, comment, and share for more great cutting-edge content. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good science. The first black scientist we are going to honor is George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was an African-American scientist and educator. Carver is famous for many inventions, including a number of uses for the peanut. George Washington Carver was born enslaved and went on to become one of the most prominent scientists and inventors of his time, as well as a teacher of the Tuskegee Institute. Carver devised over 100 products using one major crop, the peanut, including dyes, plastics, and gasoline. Carver was most likely born in 1864, enslaved in Diamond, Missouri, during the Civil War years. Like many children of the enslaved, the exact year and date of his birth are unknown. Carver was one of many children born to Mary and Giles, an enslaved couple owned by Moses Carver. A week after his birth, Carver was kidnapped along with his sister and mother from the Carver farm by raiders from the neighboring state of Arkansas. The three were later sold in Kentucky. Among them, only the infant Carver was located by an agent of Moses Carver and returned to Missouri. The conclusion of the Civil War in 1865 brought the end of slavery in Missouri. Moses and his wife Susan decided to keep Carver and his brother James at their house after that time. Annie Jean Easley was an American computer scientist, mathematician, and rocket scientist. She worked for the Lewis Research Center of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and its predecessor, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. Annie Easley had never heard of the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, also known as NACA, when she read an article about twin sisters who were human computers at the Aircraft Engine Research Laboratory in Cleveland, Ohio. The lab, the predecessor of the NASA Glenn Research Center, was in need of people with strong math skills, and she was in need of a job after recently relocating from Birmingham, Alabama. 2 weeks after reading the article, Easley began a career that would span 34 years. She would contribute to numerous programs as a computer scientist, inspire many through her enthusiastic participation in outreach programs, break down barriers for women and people of color in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.